Did you know our bodies are made up of trillions upon trillions of microscopic units called cells? Cells make up every part of our body: the skin, eyes, bones, muscles, and so on. These cells are called somatic cells. Somatic cells contain a full set of DNA and are called diploid. In order for us to grow, these cells themselves need to grow and divide. This process is controlled by the cell cycle. A cycle is a process that repeats itself like a day. You wake up in the morning, you go to class, do homework, hang out with friends, and go to bed. The next day, the process repeats itself. The cell cycle is like this. The purpose of the cell cycle is to produce a cell just like itself. For most of the time, up to 95%, the cell is in a phase called interphase. The other parts of the cell cycle are the mitotic M phase and cytokinesis. Mitosis is when the cell divides into two daughter cells, and cytokinesis is when the membrane pinches in, producing two separate cells, which start the process all over again. Let's look at these phases a little more in depth.
Interphase includes G1, S, and G2. In interphase, the mass of DNA is tangled in a group called chromatin. The chromatin are inside of the double membrane nucleus. Next comes prophase, the first part of the mitotic phase, which is a time when membrane begins to break down and the chromatin begins to form chromosomes. By the end, the centrioles move to both the top and bottom, while the chromosomes migrate towards the center of the cell. It is now that the mitotic spindle begins to appear. Metaphase begins as the spindle finishes forming, and the chromosomes take their positions in the middle of the cell, right between the two poles. Each of the chromosomes is joined with a spindle microtubule at the centromere, which is the point in which the chromatids cross. You know you have reached anaphase when the centrosomes of each chromosome begin to separate. In anaphase, you end up with twice the amount of chromosomes than you did before anaphase started. Also, each of these is complete with its own centromere. In a V-shape and upside-down V-shape, the chromosomes move towards their respective poles. The last portion of the mitotic phase is telophase. In this stage, daughter nuclei form at each of the poles once the chromosomes have gathered. Because each of the chromosomes were identical to itself while in each nucleus, the two daughter nuclei will be exact replicas of one another as the ones found in the parent cell. At this point, the nuclear membrane forms again and the nuclei appear again. You will notice that the nuclei at the end of telophase will look quite similar to the nuclei from interphase. The final portion of the cell cycle is cytokinesis, where the cytoplasm divides. At this point, it is like a balloon being pinched together in the middle because the membrane creates a ring around the middle and splits the cell in two. At the completion, each cell gets about half of all parts of the original cell.
DNA in your cells during interphase is chromatin, like the shoestring, long string and hard to handle. During mitosis, it forms a chromosome, which is bundled up and a lot more dense. The chromosome is connected to the mitotic spindle at a point called the kinetochore, and the mitotic spindle pulls this chromatid away from its sister chromatid, and that's mitosis.
There are two stages of meiosis, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. Meiosis 1 separates homologous chromosomes and creates two haploid cells. Meiosis 2 separates sister chromatids and creates 4 haploid cells. In prophase 1, crossing over between the sister chromatids occurs. The pair exchange segments. In metaphase 1, the tetrads line up in the middle of the cell at the metaphase plate. Also, the microtubule attaches to the kinetochore. In anaphase 1, the pairs of homologous chromosomes split while the sister chromatids continue to be attached. The end result found in telophase 1 and cytokinesis are two haploid cells formed and the chromosomes remain double. Next comes meiosis 2. This set of stages stems off what occurred in meiosis 1. From the two haploid cells formed in telophase 1 and cytokinesis, they split and become separate, and this occurs in prophase 2. In metaphase 2, the sister chromosomes line up along the metaphase plate again to prepare for anaphase 2. In anaphase 2, the sister chromatids separate. The final stage, telophase 2 and cytokinesis, 4 haploid cells are created and each holds single chromosomes. The 4 haploid gametes of meiosis 2 contain half the genetic information of one parent.
Mitosis occurs in the somatic cells of the body. These make up all the cells except the sex cells. Mitosis results in 2 diploid daughter cells identical in genetic makeup. Meiosis produces 4 haploid cells from one germ cell, and each contains half the genetic information of the parent cell, along with variations due to crossing over. The processes of mitosis and meiosis are very similar, and include prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. Enthusiasm about mitosis and meiosis should be left to the experts.
And remember, don't try this at home.